Hey everyone, welcome back. So I've got a fun Grimm's Tale for you today, or at least I hope it is. It's one that we're all familiar with, assuming you like Shrek as much as I do. It's Puss in Boots. So hopefully it's full of sassy cats rocking boots and threatening people with their swords and using those big ol' eyes to get whatever he wants. If not, I'm going to be very disappointed. So shall we find out together if it's as good as the movie version? A miller had 3 sons, a mill, a donkey, and a cat. The sons had to grind grain, the donkey had to haul the grain and carry away the flour, and the cat had to catch the mice. When the miller died, the 3 sons divided the inheritance. The oldest received the mill, the second the donkey, and nothing was left for the third but the cat. This made the youngest sad, and he said to himself, I certainly got the worst part of the bargain. My oldest brother can grind wheat, and my second brother can ride on his donkey, but what can I do with the cat? Once I make a pair of gloves out of his fur, it's all over. Jeez, I mean, he got the shaft, but murdering the cat over it's a little rude. I think the brothers should get, made gloves out of before the kitty. They're the ones messing with him. The cat, who had understood all he had said, began to speak. Listen, there is no need to kill me when all you'll get will be a pair of poor gloves for my fur. Have some boots made for me instead. Then I'll be able to go out, mix with people, and help you before you know it. Ooh, sneaky kitty. Already talking and working him. The miller's son was surprised the cat could speak like that. But since the shoemaker happened to be walking by, he called him inside and had him measure a pair of boots for the cat. I swear one of these days I'm going to learn to talk. Maybe, if you're lucky. When the boots were finished, the cat put them on. After he took a sack, filled the bottom with grains of wheat, and attached a piece of cord to the top, which he could pull to close it. And then he slung the sack over his back and walked out the door on 2 legs like a human being. Aw, so cute. At that time, there was a king ruling the country, and he liked to eat partridges. However, there was a grave situation because no one had been able to catch a single partridge. The whole forest was full of them, but they frightened so easily that none of the huntsmen had been able to get near them. The cat knew this and thought he could do much better than the huntsman. Unless he's like my cats, and then they're, useless. Cute and entertaining, but absolutely useless. When he entered the forest, he opened the sack, spread the grains of wheat on the ground, placed the cord in the grass, and strung it out behind a hedge. Then he crawled in back of the hedge, hid himself, and lay in wait. Soon the partridges came running, found the wheat, and hopped in the sack, one after the other. When a good number were inside, the cat pulled the cord. Once the sack was closed tight, he ran over to it and wrung their necks. Ouch! Went from being murdered to doing the murdering. Then he slung the sack over his back and went straight to the king's castle. The sentry called out, Halt! Where are you going? To the king, answered the cat curtly. Are you crazy? A cat can't go to the king. Oh, let him go, another sentry said. King's often very bored. Perhaps the cat will give him some pleasure with his meowing and purring. Yeah, they do that pretty well. It's usually pretty adorable. When the cat appeared before the king, he bowed and said, My lord, the count, and he uttered a long, distinguished name, sends you his regards and would like to offer you these partridges, which he recently caught in his traps. The king was amazed by the beautiful fat partridges. Indeed, he was so overcome with joy that he commanded the cat to take as much gold from his treasury as he could carry and put it into the sack. Bring it to your lord and give him my very best thanks for his gift. Meanwhile, the poor miller's son sat at home by the window, propped his head on his hand, and wondered why he had given away all he had for the cat's boots, when the cat would probably not be able to bring him anything great in return. Suddenly, the cat entered, threw the sack from his back, and opened it, and dumped the gold at the miller's feet. Now you got something for the boots. The king also sends his regards and best of thanks. The miller was happy to have such wealth, even though he did not understand how everything had happened. However, As the cat was taking off his boots, he told him everything and said, "Surely you have enough money now, but we won't be content with that. Tomorrow I'm going to put on my boots again, and you shall become even richer. Incidentally, I told the king that you're a count." The following day, the cat put on his boots, as he said he would, went hunting again, and brought the king a huge catch. So it went every day, and every day the cat brought back gold to the miller. At the king's court, he became a favorite, so that he was permitted to come and go and wander about the castle wherever he pleased. One day, as the cat was lying by the hearth in the king's kitchen and warming himself, the coachman came and started cursing. "May the devil take the king and princess. I want to go to the tavern, have a drink, and play some cards. But now they want me to drive them to the lake so they can go for a walk." When the cat heard that, he ran home and said to his master, "If you want to be a rich count, come with me to the lake and go for a swim." The miller did not know what to say. Nevertheless, he listened to the cat and went with him to the lake, where he undressed and jumped into the water completely naked. Scandalous! Just stripping in front of everybody. Dirty old fake count. Meanwhile, the cat took his clothes, carried them away, and hid them. No sooner had he done it than the king came driving by. Now the cat began to wail in a miserable voice, "Ah, most gracious king, my lord went for a swim in the lake, and a thief came and stole his clothes that were lying on the bank. Now the count is in the water and can't get out. If he stays in much longer, he'll freeze and die." When the king heard that, he ordered the coach to stop, and one of his servants had to race back to the castle and fetch some of the king's garments. Sneaky, sneaky. I see where he's going with this. The count put on the splendid clothes, and since the king had already taken a liking to him because of the partridges that, he believed, had been sent by the count, he asked the young man to sit down next to him in the coach. The princess was not in the least angry about this, for the count was young and handsome and pleased her a great deal. In the meantime, the cat went on ahead of them and came to a large meadow where there was over 100 people making hay. "Who owns this meadow, my good people?" asked the cat. "The great sorcerer." Now that's a twist. That was not in any of the Shrek movies. Unless you count the fairy godmother. "Listen to me. The king will be driving by, and when he asks who the owner of this meadow is, I want you to answer, 'The Count.' If you don't, you'll all be killed." Don't mess with Puss. Then the cat continued on his way and came to a wheat field so enormous that nobody could see over it. There was more than 200 people standing there and cutting wheat. "Who owns this wheat, my good people?" "The sorcerer." "Listen to me. The king will be driving by, and when he asks who owns the wheat, who the owner of this wheat is, I'm extra tongue-tied today. I want you to answer, 'The Count.' If you don't do this, you'll all be killed." Finally, the cat came to a splendid forest where more than 300 people were chopping down large oak trees and cutting them into wood. "Who owns this forest, my good people?" "The sorcerer." "Listen to me. The king will be driving by, and when he asks who the owner of this forest is, I want you to say, 'The Count.' If you don't, you'll all be killed." The cat continued on his way, and the people watched him go. Since he looked so unusual and walked in boots like a human being, they were afraid of him. And then we got a visit from my little man. "Hi." "Oh, thank you. Yes, Mommy loves you too." Soon the cat came to the sorcerer's castle, walked boldly inside, and appeared before the sorcerer, who looked at him scornfully and asked him what he wanted. The cat bowed and said, "I've heard that you can turn yourself into any kind of animal you desire. Well, I'm sure you can turn yourself into a dog, fox, or even a wolf. But I don't believe you can turn yourself into an elephant. That seems impossible to me. That is why I've come. I want to be convinced with my own eyes." "That's just a trifle for me," the sorcerer said arrogantly, and within seconds he turned himself into an elephant. "That's great, but can you also change yourself into a lion?" "Nothing to it," said the sorcerer, and he suddenly stood before the cat as a lion. The cat pretended to be terrified and cried out, "That's incredible and unheard of! Never in all my dreams would I have thought this possible. But you'd top all of this if you could turn yourself into a tiny animal such as a mouse. I'm convinced you could do more than any other sorcerer in the world, but that would be too much for you." Sneaky little butt. I like him. The flattery had made the sorcerer quite friendly, and he said, "Oh no, dear cat, that's not too much at all," and soon he was running around the room as a mouse. Then the cat ran after him, caught the mouse in one leap, and ate him up. I was wondering where the Grimm part was coming in. While all this was happening, the king had continued driving with the count and the princess and had come to the large meadow. "Who owns that hay?" the king asked. "The count," all the people cried out, just as the cat had ordered them to do. "You've got a nice piece of land, Count," the king said. Afterward, they came to the large wheat field. "Who owns that wheat, my good people?" "The count." "Ma, you've got quite a large and beautiful estate." Next, they came to the forest. "Who owns the woods, my good people?" "The count." The king was even more astounded and said, "You must be a rich man, Count. I don't think I have such a splendid forest." At last they came to a castle. The cat stood on top of the stairs, and when the coach stopped below, he ran down, opened the door, and said, "Your Majesty, you've arrived at the castle of my lord, the Count. This honor will make him happy for the rest of his life." The king climbed out of the coach and was amazed by the magnificent building, which was almost larger and more beautiful than his own castle. The count led the princess up the stairs and into the hall, which was flickering with lots of gold and jewels. The princess became the count's bride, and when the king died, the count became king, and Puss in Boots was his prime minister. Well then, that's quite a new one. I've never heard that version of, the kitty getting to run the land. Because we all know it was really the kitty. Don't we, little man? The count's just the kitty's pawn, which figures. Don't mess with the cat. They're sneaky. They might not be as snuggly as a doggy, but they're sneaky when they gotta be. Huh, so you've tangled with a couple, haven't you? Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Apparently he didn't. Not with that little snort. But hopefully y'all did, and I will see you on the next one, and hopefully be a little less tongue-tied on it, huh? Bye. Have a good week.